Okay, so welcome everyone on the lecture about accessibility. My name is Victoria. I would be your speaker for today. Yeah, and I try to make this lecture as interesting as possible, even though talks about accessibility sometimes can be quite boring. So let's begin. And I think everyone here know who Tim Berners-Lee is. And he once said that the power of the web is in its universality. Access by everyone, regardless of disability, is an essential aspect. And this premise was tried to be kept in the web or 3W throughout all its journey. And now, as developers, our duty is to continue to maintain this kind of rule to make web as accessible as possible for everyone. And here where accessibility and its rules comes. So accessibility, or as we sometimes write A11Y for shorter, is a practice of making your website usable by as many people as possible. Even though we mostly think about it when we talk about accessibility, we mostly think about people who's disabled, like people who struggle seeing or hearing or typing. Maybe they have some cognitive problems. We usually think about these people, but it's not only about them. I believe a lot of us face the situation where we, for example, don't have a really good internet at some point. Maybe we use mobile, or our 3G is not that good. Maybe we're on a sunny day and our screen is not that bright. We don't really see a lot. So that's also cases where accessibility comes in action to help you as a user without some medical disabilities, but with some technical issues, still be able to use a website, or the example when you don't have a mouse or your keyboard is broken, still you should be able to use a website. But overall, mostly we talk about people who are disabled, and let's talk about different types of disabilities to give a kickoff, to give you more understanding of for what people were doing this for and stuff like that. So types of disabilities that are covered by web accessibility usually are visual, auditory, speech, motor, physical, cognitive, and seizure disorders. Visual is simple. Someone has not really good sight or blind completely. This can be covered by different screen readers. So person just installed it on the computer. Sorry, just read chat. So yeah, someone just installed screen reader on the computer, or for example in the Apple is already pre-installed. For Windows it's called NVDA, I think. For macOS it's VoiceOver. Maybe if you have time I'll demonstrate it for you later. So they just turned it on. It reads everything that's happening on the screen. That's why from developers, it's really important to mark everything right, so these screen readers read everything as it is. Color blindness is also one thing that should be covered by accessibility. If the contrast on your page is not that good, for some people who don't see particular colors, that might be a problem to see things. If some just some stuff for them just be invisible because of the combination of colors. So this is another thing that's really important to cover during accessibility testing and implementation of accessibility. Yeah, the next part of the presentation is a bit flashy, so if you have some problems, please don't look. I'll tell you when it's stopped. So yeah, the next part is dyslexia. It's basically people who have this disability see every text like you see right now. So the letters just come back and forth. They can't really read letters and words and stuff like that. So this for them, screen readers again is a lifesaver because it just read for them everything that happened on the page. They just click maybe and control it with mouse or keyboard, whatever useful for them. So yeah, again, and yeah, the a bit flashy moment is stopped, so you can watch again if you had a problem. And yeah, this how people see if they're blind. So again, screen readers help us here. And yeah, this is most common thing that we think about when we talk about visual disabilities, but things that I showed you before show that there are many more of them. Yeah, this is just a cute video about how we can help people who still want to watch, for example, videos on YouTube, but they can't see. And that might be kind of confusing, but let me turn off and turn on the captions. So here you can see if I would turn on the audio, you'd hear everything that's happening. So basically, the woman in the background just described every little thing that's happening. You can see people walks through open doors into a Grand University hall. She walks along a wall of framed memorable slowly. People admire each piece of history and stuff like that. So this is again a really nice way to help people with disabilities still live their life and enjoy YouTube. Not a lot of videos do that, unfortunately, but yeah, this is just another example of how we can help people. I'll give a link for the presentation if you'd like to watch it on your own. Really cute one with description without woman narrating everything, and with you can find everything here. So that's for later. Yep, about auditory disabilities, basically people who don't hear, and for them on the platforms like YouTube again, there are a lot of types of captions. Here you can see the most common one that we sometimes use. For example, if we wanted to watch person who speak English and we're not really good at it, or just want to practice more, we sometimes turn them on too. So that's just addition to this feature. And for additional narration, there is a transcript feature on the YouTube where you can just read without watching the video if you would like. So it's again help people who don't hear completely or just hear really bad still enjoy stuff like that. Yep, cognitive disabilities, they are a bit more hard to understand for normal humans. So basically it's people who don't have problems with keeping attention on something like that, or some anxiety disorders, people who don't have a good short-term memory, or who are currently multitasking, people who are less technologically literate. people who live poor wireless reception and people who have motor control issues. So, for example, if we talk about that, people who can't really normally use mouse or who are paralyzed and stuff like that. Yeah, and again, a big, I would say, giant part of our population are elderlies who also need some care and attention at that point, and they are holders of a lot of things that I told you before. So that's why we also should take in consideration that some people might have more than one of this. Yeah, and people aged 60 years or over um, currently, not currently, this one, this year's is almost 1 billion. I think it's already 1 billion for 2021, and in future it would be more. Yep. So, yeah, like that. So we should also take care about them. And here the list of age-related impairments: visual, physical, hearing, cognitive. As you can see, there are a lot of them. As I told you before, unfortunately, elderlies keep just a few from each category. So yeah, that's why we also pay attention to a lot of things developing our website or application or wherever. So WCAG, it's a web content accessibility guidelines. It's a document that we basically use trying to plan and implement accessibility on our website. Usually, it's useful for solution architects or team leaders who planning stuff for your website, or for example, business analysis who think about how good accessibility should be on our website, what we want to imply on our website from this web content accessibility guidelines. And this basically just a list of rules, principle guidelines, success criteria, and some advices for how to implement accessibility. So basically that's a standard. You can, here's a link if you like, you can check that later. I'll just briefly go through all of these things. So what are the principal guidelines and stuff like that? So there are 4 principles for this guideline, and the first one is perseverable web content is made available to the senses, sight, hearing, and or touch. That's mostly for mobile development. So yeah, for the first one, text alternatives, provide text alternatives for any non-text content, which means that, for example, if you add some picture on your website or video again, there should be alternative for that. Not only for people who are disabled, also for people who have problems with the screen or I don't know, don't have a really good internet and takes ages to download this video or picture. They still should be able to comprehend what's written on your page. Time-based media provide alternatives for time-based. It's again for video and audio. Adaptable, create content that can be presented in different ways. For example, simply layout without losing information or structure. It's mostly for stuff to be accessible on your mobile phone, for example, or vice versa on a laptop, PC, I don't know, maybe TV, even Nintendo, whatever you like. And distinguishable, make it easier to see and hear content, including separating foreground from background. Yeah, this for people who don't see it nicely or don't see good, or um, they can't comprehend colors really well, or again, if you're fine, you don't have any disability, but your screen is not that good. Maybe that's also would um, be point for your situation. Principle 2, operable interface forms, controls, and navigation are operable. Basically, all of these things are about forms, input, stuff like that. So we should be able to navigate through our navigate and fulfill our form from keyboard, for example, or only using mouse and stuff like that. So yeah, this is basically the first point of it. Yeah, and we should, from this principle, we also should keep the order of the input. So, for example, if there is a badly implemented accessibility on the website, when user try to navigate on this page, on this form, using keyboard, the order might be different than it visually is. I'll show you what I mean later, but basically we should also keep the order right. So the user who can see, for example, and who cannot still get the same content. Um, yeah, principle number 3, understandable information and the operation of user interface must be understandable. Pretty much tomato, tomato. Readable, predictable, input assistant. Pretty much, I think don't need a lot of explanation. Input assistant, which should help user avoid and correct mistake. This is about form validation. So, for example, if you have an input where you ask user to put your email, and he writes it not correctly, he forgot the a symbol or stuff like that, doesn't put dot. You should tell him about it. It's also, as you can see, it's kind of thing that we see every day using web. This thing when we write something wrongly, we see this validation error. But as you can see, this is also an accessibility principle, and yeah, that just proves that we face accessibility basically every day. And the last but not least, principle number 4, robust content can be used reliably by a wide variety of user agents, including assistive technologies. Assistive technologies are mostly when we talk about assistive technologies, we talk about screen readers, as I told you before, stuff that help users who not see to get information from the web page by reading it. Yeah, that's basically about it. So we should be able to use our website in any agent, in using any stuff. Yeah. Yeah, and there are 3 levels of conformance: 1A, 2A, 3A, and if you'd like, you can read more closely later about them. But overall, they just define the harshness of level accessibility. So basically, the bigger A, the more A we have, the better accessibility will be covered on the website. But as you can predict, level A of accessibility is easier to implement than than the one that would be than above, but it doesn't cover much things. It covers just simple things like adding alternatives for images, making site adaptable and distinguishable. So making colors, maintaining a certain level of color contrast on the page, for example. And this would cover, I would say, maybe 40% of the cases that should be covered by accessibility. Level 2A, that's adopted by most of the websites, I think. This level is most common. This covers already maybe like 70 or even 80% of the accessibility cases that should be covered. It's already about synchronizing captures for time-based media, like we saw on YouTube, making page more adaptable, changing orientation, and again distinguishable. No loss of content or functionality occurs, and with horizontal scrolling is avoided when content is persistent and width. So that sounds really simple to implement, though again, as you can see, this is a point from accessibility as well. Because, for example, if you if this situation happened with horizontal scrolling, not for everyone this would be obvious that something has changed, that horizontal scrolling appeared at all. For an Apple user, that's a nightmare because they don't see a scroll at all. Yep, so that's again point from accessibility, because some of your content won't be accessible. That's simple as that. Yeah, so level 2A, most common one, a bit more complicated to implement than the previous one, though provided the bigger coverage from all of them. And about level, not the biggest coverage, but let's say relation between effort and outcome is the best on that level. And level 3A, this level is used mostly, I would say, only on government websites, the one that actually should be accessible by every single person. Yeah, and it covers really tiny, itty bitty things on your website that rarely big percent of users would face with. Yep, so this level of the accessibility adopted by mostly government and official government website, official institutes and stuff like that. And yeah, it's the most complicated to implement. Why do we talk about it in general? Yeah, it's nice to help people. It's really important. But another point, more, let's say, down to earth, is the law. And accessibility principles are bounded to, websites, organizations, and stuff like that should adopt certain level of the WCAG, or just accessibility, because they're bounded by the law. At some point of the time in this country, someone created a case because he wasn't able to access certain website. This how it started in not the biggest part of the world, though in a lot of countries of the first world. Yeah, that's why we're talking about it now, because clients who we are gonna work with are also bounded by the law to implement them. And just a piece of advice, if in future you're gonna work with clients who don't have accessibility and they are in the countries that are marked with any basically color apart from white, they should be thinking about it, because at some point of time someone might come to them and that would be a big and unpleasant lawsuit. Yeah, so here here a list of the law documents. If you're interested, enjoy the nice night reading. of this stuff. We're not gonna stop on that, just proof of the point I've made about the law. ARIA. Um, what is that? First of all, it's it is accessible, rich internet applications, or a set of attributes that define ways to make web content and web applications more accessible to people with disabilities. And the second of all, it is W3C protocol for enhancing and supporting accessibilities of supported and dynamic content, scripted and dynamic content. Basically, it is a set of yeah, let's go here. Basically, just set of attributes that help you to apply accessibility on your components, on your tags, HTML tags and stuff like that. Surely without help, not without help of JavaScript, but some of them work on its own just with HTML. So why should we use ARIA? Use ARIA to structure web page and website to enhance accessibility. So add more meaning to the components, to the elements. So I'm sure you know that in HTML5 we have bigger level of the semantic. So we have a lot of tags, a lot of new tags like main and header and footer, video, stuff like that, that already define what this component is on the web page, though it's not always enough, as a lot of web pages are really custom, and the web components on the web page are custom. They might use this tags as wrapper or as inner component, but they might have a lot of just divs around them. So adding some ARIA attributes help you to define what this component is more strictly. Recognize accessibility errors in dynamic web pages and applications. Pretty straightforward. Use ARIA to fix accessibility errors. Again, this comes from this point. Build accessible JavaScript widgets. So this helps us, as I already mentioned before, ARIA helps us, sure, but there are a lot of things that should be done in combination, ARIA with JavaScript. And for example, the easiest example of all is when we have a pop-up notification. Usually it comes on the right top angle of the web page. Maybe it's a chat, or I don't know, maybe it's a shop, and the pop-up says, hey, you have only 20 minutes to finish your checkout to get a discount and stuff like that. So it's dynamic. It should be, it's okay for a person who sees the web page nicely, but what about the person who uses a screen reader, for example? How he would know that this pop-up appeared at all on the page? Sounds complicated, though. Adding certain ARIA attributes and changing them with JavaScript will tell the screen reader that something happened. So this where ARIA and JavaScript comes around. Test web page for JavaScript related accessibility errors. Yep, again, I'm here. Incorporate ARIA and JavaScript accessibility into the planning and creation of a new content. So ARIA allows to communicate the following information to screen readers: labels or names. This helps with, again, forms, inputs and stuff like that. You, again, I think you heard and maybe even used attribute name and tag label. Implementing some form, it helps to combine, name helps to combine, for example, radio buttons in one group and make it work as together. Label would be pronounced by screen reader when you focus on the form and stuff like that. Roles help with this point to define to give a certain role to a component. We'll talk about the different types of roles just in a minute. States of dynamic interactive components, as this is about the example I told you about the pop-up on the right page. So something changes on the page dynamically. We change the status of this component with area attributes true, false, usually as simple as that, and it helps to communicate with screen reader. Properties of items, relationships between items, live updates. Yeah, this is again about this pop-up. Note that using ARIA doesn't automatically implement the standard widget behavior. You will still need to add focus management, add keyboard navigation, change area attribute values in the script. This is already talked about. Add keyboard navigation. If you use proper tags in HTML, this should work from the box, out of the box. Though sometimes we indeed need to change the order of the navigation and stuff like that. And add focus management. What is that? So for example, I'm on a page and I open some thing like that, for example. As you can see, focus of the on the page is now right here, though I never put it here myself. This happened automatically. So basically, if I won't use my mouse, as you can see, I put it here. Currently, I'm using button tab on my keyboard. I'm using tab to go down and shift and tab to go up. So you can see I can navigate through the elements from the oops, I went somewhere. From my keyboard. This is about focus navigation, and again I can click enter. Nothing happened. Perfect. Brilliant. Brilliantly implemented. Yeah, I should have opened this. Something doesn't work correctly here. Yep, so this is what about keyboard navigation and focus management. They usually work together, though focus management goes on its own when we talk about stuff that appears on the page, these windows, or when there is a model window for that appears all over the page. Stuff like that. So here we talk about focus management separately from keyboard navigation. So, role. Every HTML has a role, meaning a set of features, properties, and methods of conveying information to and or from the user. Essentially, the role defines what the element is. Simple as that. Button is a role, banner is a role, navigation main, search, complementary, containing content info and stuff like that. There are a bunch of them. You don't have to memorize them. You would need them only in situation when you implement certain custom component. So you basically would know which role you'd need, or you just Google if it exists, or find something that would be something like that. We use them all the time, though not so often, as it's still better to use semantic, so proper HTML tags in order to do something. Yep, screen readers and other assistive technology need to know the role for each element and the web page to be able to interact with it intelligently. So yeah, screen readers use role to define certain behavior for them and understand should I focus this or not, should I tell something or not. So stuff like that. when a screen reader comes to an image, for example, element, the screen reader knows it is an image, so the screen reader will tell the user that it is an image. Most screen readers say graphic, though. Um, for example, NVDA, I think, tell graphic, and VoiceOver from Mac tell image. And then it will read the alt tag for the image. So this is alt text is what I was talking about when I told that we should create alternatives for images. So alt attribute of the image help doing that. Yep, and apart from role, there are quite a lot of I don't know different ARIA attributes. Again, don't worry, they're pretty self-explanatory, and yeah, so this type of the ARIA attribute basically define the name. So the name of the element that would be said by screen reader when this element is in focus. Again, I'll show you a bit later if you had time. This shows add some modifier to the component. So if it's required, if we talk about form and there is some field that should be always filled and form won't be submitted if this field isn't submitted, apart from adding just required property attribute there, we should add area required, for example, if it's custom input or something like that. And it, again, it would help screen reader to understand it. Area multi-line modal for model windows, read-only just for text, not something that not configurable or changeable. Multi-selectable, again for certain inputs. Orientation, sort, row span, call span. Again, this never heard of using before, though. If you're working with something specific, that might be my common use. This one are interactive, so ARIA Live they come useful when we implement this pop-up I was talking about, stuff like that. This parts of the attribute define state, so as you can see, if button is pressed or not, if item is grabbed, it's about, I cannot do it here, but if we can move some components from left to right, for example, disabled, again, really useful thing if some form attribute should be disabled. Oh, sorry, not attribute. Form input should be disabled. We add this, and screen reader would tell. Area hidden would ignore this component. Would tell screen reader to ignore it. Let's say like that. Yeah, and this attribute adds value to the component, value now, value min, call index, call count, set size, stuff like that. Yep. So this is little example of the code. So here you can see I created in the screen code snippet. First code snippet, I added some role to just the list. So here, as you can see from the role, I created something like a custom radio button component. And looking at this, this is HTML. This should on focus on this UL. This should say radio group for RG1 label 1. This thing. So radio group launch orientation. Then it would go to tab index and would say that it is radio button thigh and stuff like that. Again, as you can see here, manipulating area attribute checked and unchecked, manipulating tab index. Yeah, by the way, talking about tab index, it defines whether or not component would be focusable on the page, and number says define the order of the layer on which this would be focusable. So by default, our component have tab index 0. So this means that when we go from one component to another, when we move focus with button tab, this would use natural flow of the page. If we change, for example, some tab index to tab index of some component to 1 on the page, only this component would have tab index 1. It would use, first of all, it would focus on this component, and only then it would go back to the start of the page and use natural flow. If there is a few element that use the same tab index, it would use natural flow of the page to define the order in which they should be focused, though again they would be focused before everything else. If you see the index -1, it means that this component won't be focusable at all. So here you can see that modifying basically these three attributes, we easily can create a vision of the normal radio button. So we change this as a C, we change tab index moving from top to bottom. If we click space or enter, we can change area checked to true. Here again, a lot of JavaScript should be added to that. It won't work just from the boxes I tell you, but this again, this is how it would do. Yeah, the second code snippet here. I don't have a lot of area attributes. I don't have roles. Just because basically I don't need a lot of them. So here you can see I use semantic. We have here label and input. Label have attribute 4, which states the ID. That kind of might be confusing, but it's about ID of the input. So basically when the screen reader would, when we focus on this input, screen reader would read this. Area requires true. Again, this will force screen reader to tell this that this field is required or not. And everywhere else, this kind of work the same. Oh, there are nice blocks. Great, I forgot about them. Yeah. Yeah, basically, I already explained you this thing. If you would like to read more about it, feel free to come here to this presentation after the lecture. So what tools can we use to go through this hard journey of implementing accessibility and testing it? Yeah, as I told you already, there are quite a few screen readers. The main two are NVDA and VoiceOver. NVDA is for mostly used on the Windows. VoiceOver is installed on Mac from the scratch. TalkBack is for Android. VoiceOver again for iPhone OS and Mac OS. Yeah, I wrote here on my iPhone OS. There are a few screen reader shortcuts. Again, these blue things are links. You can click on them and read in your free times. There are quite a few dev tools. For example, for Google Chrome, we have a few of them. This is quite a video. So, for example, there is a tool that helps us to see the focus of the page, or there is a tool that helps us define see the contrast of a few components. There is a tool that tests accessibility for us. Let me just maybe open it. 1 second. If I have it Oh no. Okay. No. New window. Um, do I have it? I don't. Okay, let me just show it to you. So, in the web store, there is two nice application. One called Axe. This one, let's add it to Chrome. It helps you to test accessibility. You just start it, and it would test your page and show you what the problems here. And the other one I really like is Site Improve. Are you here? No. Okay. Maybe call him like this. No. Okay. Let's just Google it and test the Axe right away. Yeah, this thing. Chrome. Here you are. Okay, great. We have both of them. So let's open some page and let me show you something. What can we Google? Let's Google kidding. And something. Let's go to the YouTube. Let's check how they're going. So yeah, you would now see my history. That's fine. Okay, so here, let me just 1 second. Let me just open the chat so I can see if you have any questions. Great, you don't. What a nice audience. So let's check YouTube on the accessibility. So I open X. It opens from the inspect mode. Simply Dimply X DevTools. I don't want to do that. Okay. So what should I do here? Go away. Scan, and it will go through all the page and analyze all area, not area. I cannot open it. All rules 1A, 2A, 3A, the one I've been talking about, and show us which are violated. As you can see, there are quite a lot of issues, though. As we can see, a lot of them are just the simple, the same one. ID attribute value must be unique. Something is wrong here. Area tooltip nodes must have an accessible name. Again, some they probably have some component tooltip and it doesn't have name. Something like that. Elements must only use allowed area attributes, so they probably added some already deprecated area attributes and stuff like that. So if you want to see more closer, yeah, what component is violate this rule, you can go down here. You can go through every single error and analyze it. You can see the component, the selector of the component, so the location of this, the element source, and more advices on how you can fix that. Very handy thing to use. About site improve. Site improve. Where are you? Did I install it? Where are you now? Okay, that it's not here, but it's here. Should I restart my home maybe? Pum pum. No, still not here. Maybe like that? Maybe just somewhere. No, okay, never mind. Oh, here you are. Oh my god. Can you not? Why is it login everywhere? That's crazy. Okay, never mind. Again, it's doing the same thing. It's analyze your page, going through all A1, A2, A3 rules and show you the errors and how it can be fixed. Simple as that. So going back to our presentation, that's it. Yeah, that's it from the theoretical part. So we have a little bit of time for a demonstrational thing. Here you can find a lot of links on the stuff. If you're interested, you can read that. So let's go to demonstration and maybe something more simple. So, okay. So when we want to implement some component, for example, we're not that good in accessibility yet, so we want to understand how this component works. Simple. So, for example, I want to know how checkbox checkbox component works from scratch. What can I do about it? I can do like this. Access checkbox accessibility W3C. Just Google that, and here you can find the checkbox example on www.w3org. This is basically guys who write WCAG guideline, and you can relate on them. Basically, for example, if something doesn't work on the component you implemented from accessibility point of view, and you don't really know why, you can go here and check how this works here on this component that they show. And if something doesn't work here, chances are that it's just a problem of the browser, or yeah, basically this is a problem of the browser, and you only thing you can do is writing some not really beautiful and nice code to improve that. So here, unfortunately, I cannot show you what I'm using to go from one component to another, but yeah, let's go from the start. So basically, when you appear on the page, focus of your focus would be on this URL. Next time you click, you'll go here, 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 nicely and smoothly, and only then you will appear on the page. So this is your first appearance on the page. Again, I'm just clicking tab on my keyboard, nothing else. I go through. Oh yeah, I finished going through the page. So you should have noticed that mostly things that I go through are links, some inputs, and that's it basically. So these are focusable components, focusable elements, stuff like inputs, stuff like links, so a tag, input tag, checkbox, select, stuff like that. They are focusable from the out of the box. You don't need to do anything about them. This is basically buttons as well, by the way. This is basically just a clickable content. You can think about it like that. This helps user without a mouse to go from one type to another. For example, if I want to select check lettuce, but I don't know what should I use from. So using my intuition, I might think that I should use enter. I'm clicking it now. I think you hear, but it doesn't work. I go here in um, this section, and here it's written keyboard support for this component. It's again, it's not something custom. It's just check boxes. Example of the check boxes. Yep. So here you can see how it was implemented here. Simple as that. So I'm going from top to bottom. I want to select one. I go here, I read OK. I use tab to move keyboard focus to the checkbox, certain, and I use space to toggle certain checkbox. Okay, let me try this. Okay, that's worked great. So this is what you would want to implement for your component as well. This stuff is standardized. You implementing your own behavior would violate rules for that stuff, even though this might be more logical to implement toggle on the enter, though for people who would actually use keyboard, this is not. This is they learned that checkbox would be toggled on space because this is how everyone uses. So you would want to do that as well. The same thing. So um, this approach helps me to define the behavior for my components if I'm not sure how they should behave. Here you can find a lot of examples for simple and not that simple stuff. For example, the even button. You can check how it should work. Again, I can do stuff like that. I can do stuff like that. Again, I read here what I can do, how I can click the button, and it says that I can use enter or space. So simple as that. Some role property state and temp index attribute that can be used here, and the default states of them. Um, yep. So what about screen readers? Let me just try to summon this guy here. Yeah, here he is. So this is voiceover. This window didn't open yet. I believe it's still. Oh my god. Oh, yeah, it just scared me. It started telling stuff. Okay, so here it is. I don't have a. I don't have an icon for that, but this is basically how screen reader looks like for macOS, and you can see how it works. So again, I'm on the page. I landed in it just now. I'm here. Let's ignore this. And the first focus I'm here. It's oh my god. I'll try not to move the mouse because it will move, change the stuff that's said on reader. Okay. So as you can see here, it says you are currently on a link. To click this link, please Control Option Space. Yeah, again for voiceover, it's a tiny bit different, and for screen readers in general, stuff that you can see here in keyboard support, this is plain thing just for people who want to use page without mouse, basically. So how can I toggle something without using my mouse? I can use enter or space. I can yeah, if we use some screen reader, they would use different controls, though you don't need to worry about them. They will understand. They would use the same thing. So if they say you or your client to use control option space or combination of buttons, you should do that. It would work most of the times if you implement everything correctly as it says here. So let's go further. Again, you're currently on the link. To click this link, please control option space. And a lot of things that it says are, we don't write this. We just create, as you can see here, it's nothing that crazy implemented here in the component. It's just tag A, some href, and text, nothing else. And it can say your client already that much about it. Link, report issue, Chrome has new window. Don't know why it says that. Your currently on link. Perfect. Let's go further. Link button. What would it say? You're currently on the button. To click this button, please. Okay. I used space. It also worked, as you can see. Here it says you're currently on the button. To click this button, press Control Option Space. Why it says that, you might ask. Actually, focus currently on the Save button of this window in the bottom right corner of the print window. You can see here it has this border. So this is again how autofocus work. Some model input was open, focus went automatically on this button. I don't want to use it. I press Shift Tab, then Enter, and I'm out. This is the thing again where autofocus should be implemented, because we are out of the window. It should land somewhere. In ideal world, it should land back on the button where we came from. It won't work automatically. That's why this is a thing that we would care about. Okay, let's maybe go. Oh no. Let's do things like this. Okay, so it's clear how we go through focusable elements. That's understandable. Yeah, we need to click them, but how a user would read the text? That's a question. For example, I want him to read button examples, and the following command, the toggle button example, demonstrate the blah blah. User won't understand what's going on the page without just going through focusable components. That sounds dumb. So to go through text that's readable, we use users use just arrows. It doesn't work here like that. Perfect, like it. Yeah, I cannot show you this here. Okay, I bet there is some combination of the buttons that I don't know in VoiceOver. Oh no. Command option. Oh, I did it. Great. So yeah, this is for VoiceOver. It's combination of Control Option Arrow. So here you can see I'm going using these buttons. I can go and read stuff. So I'm focused on the text, and I can go basically on every single thing and read it. So again, link, design pattern. Then it says end of related links, navigation, and you might ask, where did it get from this links, navigation, what? Here, if we open the HTML, we see that, this list of the links was wrapped in nav element with area label related links. This is what we saw when we tabbed here. Let me show you again. End of list, related links, navigation. Here what it says when we land on this component. It won't read class. So yeah, it says navigation because we used tag navigation. Yeah, so simply as that, we can go and read button example. It read heading level 1, button example, the following command and toggle button example, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it goes quite fast. I cannot read that, but I just toggle off reading itself. So this is just the, I forgot to tell you, yeah. This is just a representation of what automated voice would say. So imagine that everything that appeared here also audited by the automated voice. I just toggle it off so I can talk to you. But yeah, so this is what this would actually read everything, not just duplicate here. It's kind of dumb. Yeah, stuff like that. I wanted to show you something else. And let's I think look at last component. What could be interesting? Oh, radio group. That's nice. Radio group using roving tab index. Let's use this. So example, just a group of radio buttons working perfectly. I want to go here. When I used checkboxes, if you remember, I could have just used tab and go to one checkbox to another. Here it doesn't work like that, because basically radio buttons are a group of elements and only one element can be selected here, and that's why it have quite a unique behavior. So to go to different element, so I want to go here, I should click arrow, and as you can see, it changes the selected element. This is not a bug, that's a feature. So yeah, it says, as you can see here, thin crust selected, radio 3 of 3. So it also tells that there are 3 radio buttons and it is the last of them, and that we selected it. So on radio button, we cannot go to a different radio button and read it without selecting it. So this is how it works. I just go click left and right arrows. So toggling, clicking tab, I just go into a different group, again, selected something. Yep. So I saw the question. Is it possible to check website level of conformance? How many A has the website? It's usually done, yes, it's possible. So you, on your own, you cannot do that. It's a special kind of guys that do that. It's audit it's called an audit, and they just come check your website, do their thing, and just tell you what level of accessibility you have on website. So that's how it's usually done. Yeah, and the only thing you can kind of the only thing how you can understand what level or just predict which level of the accessibility you have on a website is just knowing which level you're trying to do. So you're kind of going through rules of 2A. You scared me again. Oh, yeah, you would kind of know that, okay, we comprehend level AA2. We try to do that. We always test it. Or we not test that and we kind of maybe miss something. So that's the only thing. But yeah, officially we go through audit. And yeah, one thing I wanted to show you, there is actually a nice thing, WCAG checklist. So this is again another way how you can kind of check yourself, though you won't be able to know 100% if it's if this thing implemented everywhere on your website. So, for example, um, you want to go for let's say A2 level on your website. So you kind of go and check, okay, this point, the whole thing goes for level A1. I'll do that, plus I'll do that too, to maintain certain level of AA2 level accessibility. This one, I don't need to do this anymore. This 3, again, this is AA, no, 3A, so I don't need to do that. Here, a lot of things that basically you add on your uh, website or check every time or give to the testers to learn and check wherever you like and however it's gonna go on the website. But yeah, this is a nice thing to plan accessibility and implementation of accessibility on your website. Yep. So I guess that's it from me for today. Hope you liked it, and maybe you have some questions for me. No one's typing, I can see. Okay, no means no. Thank you everyone for being here today, and I wish you good luck and have a nice end of this day. Bye bye.